Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the great introduction, and yeah, great to see so many of you here, ready to start the day with a talk about the economic outlook. What a great way to start any day. So, I have been asked to give this outlook, talking about some of the opportunities that are out there, the risks that are out there, hopefully to set the scene for some of the discussion that is going to take up the rest of your day. So yes, there's a lot of risks out there. We're tracking a lot of the risks as we produce our forecast, looking to the future, but do want to keep in mind that the opportunities are definitely there. This is a great industry to be in, and we see huge opportunities for future growth. And so I want to start off on that point, start off talking about some of the opportunities that are out there as we are looking at global growth, travel growth worldwide, and particularly in this region, sort of hitting new growth phases. We have obviously been through the pandemic as existential crisis for the sector. As analysts working out in the tourism sector, looking at this, we just threw our hands up and went, wow, what's going to happen to the world? But as we've seen before, travel is very resilient. This is a hugely resilient sector, and we have seen that rebound. 2022 was the start of the return to normality. 2022 we saw a rebound. 23 we effectively saw recovery worldwide, getting back to sort of normal levels of activity. 24 is what we're now defining as the start of a new growth phase. We're starting to see international travel growth getting back up to sort of normal levels, pushing up to new heights. And really excitingly, we see it in this region. Middle East sort of being the first to get there, well above those 2019 levels, breaking new ground, pushing into new territories, growing ahead. Has fallen back a little bit on that chart. You can see it does seem to have plateaued, and there are some sort of very sort of high-profile falls out there, but it is something that's really noteworthy as we've been collating our latest forecasts, pulling together the raw data as the basis of our forecasts, just how much growth there is out there around the world. We collect sort of the latest data for as many countries as we can get hold of. We cover forecasts for 185 countries. Sadly, we're not able to gather timely data for all of them. There's 117 countries we collate timely monthly data for. Out of them, well over 95% of them, 108 of those countries are reporting growth this year. As I said, there's a couple of high-profile falls in there for obvious reasons, but this is a broad-based recovery. And globally, as mentioned, we are seeing travel getting back up to new heights. 2019 has been the benchmark we've been looking at for comparing travel activity to. It was the last year of sort of normality. But we have to remember, for international travel, it was the high watermark. It was the record level of international travel. And we're back at that level this year. And we're expecting to push on beyond that, hitting those new heights for global travel. And when we look more locally for the Middle East, we see an even more positive picture. Around the world, most regions, we tend to see domestic travel being larger than international, somewhat overlooked. Here, we're actually seeing international has overtaken domestic. Into that growth above 2019 levels, growth above prior trends, really clear for that international travel. And it's even clearer in this view here. We focus a lot on visits when we're doing the research, partly because that is sort of the most easily accessible data. But nights is something that we also track and we really need to focus on, because that's an indication of the value people place on travel and the value that travel provides to businesses and destinations. And what we're seeing is longer stays as we're moving into this growth phase. People prioritizing travel, wanting to stay longer on their trips. So we see this recovery on a nights basis really strikingly evident. So the question is, that's where we are today. That's where we expect to be the end of the year. So where are we looking ahead? Are we still seeing that growth? And the quick answer is yes. When we look at our forecasts, so within tourism economics, within Oxford Economics, the wider company, we look at forecasts, we look at economic forecasts, we then translate that into travel. We look at the outlook. How we do that? Well, we start off with the economic forecast. We look at what the potential growth prospects are for global economies, for incomes, for spending. Then we look at, drill that down, what does that mean for travel? Are people prioritizing travel? Is consumption growing? Is travel growing within that? And there's a lot of positive trends. Risks, which I'll come on to, obviously out there, But we do see, at a broad level, global economy is set to pick up this year. Not huge growth rates. We're still looking at under 3% growth worldwide, slower than it has been, but it is still definitely growth, and it's a pickup in growth. And this is evident across advanced economies, across emerging markets. We've been through a period of high inflation. That's now back under control. We've seen interest rates going up to confront that. They're starting to come down. Interest rate cuts continuing next year in major economies. That's going to boost people's incomes, boost people's spending power, and we're going to see that spending rising across the Eurozone. That's supporting that still strong growth in the US. It's supporting activity across emerging markets. And then looking at travel within this, this is showing some results from our travel trend survey that we carry out, some new consumer research that we launched this year. And this points to sustained growth in demand. So we asked people whether they believe that leisure trips are an important priority each year. Overwhelmingly, the answer was yes. Around 3/4 of respondents said they agree with that statement, that travel is a priority. There were some people who disagreed. We take the positive minus the negative, we get that net result, 67%. Huge support amongst travellers for wanting to continue to growth. But I said it's sustainable, and we think this has sort of moved on from that revenge travel that was really driving that rebound phase. This is travel sort of continuing, because we asked people whether they're sort of more cost conscious, asked whether they limit their expenditure. Around half people said yes, they're limiting expenditure, net result 26%. We asked whether they spend money on luxurious experiences. That's sort of a mixed bag, but it's about a balance. So we're still seeing people wanting to treat themselves, not sort of splurging, not seeing sort of that affordable luxury boom that we had done, but still people wanting to treat themselves on experiences, but aware of value for money. So we do think this growth is sustainable. People prioritizing travel, but just looking for value out there. And this means that we think this picture is going to continue. So this is where we're looking at sort of going into our modeling, comparing travel spending to other consumption. So the dark blue bar here is where we're looking at advanced economies, and we can see that travel within the consumer basket has been broadly stable over time, averaged around that 8% mark, higher in years of higher confidence, lower proportion in years of lower confidence. Obviously varies by individual market, but the same pattern is true. 2018, 2019 was a year of high travel confidence. This ratio was at some of its higher levels above prior years. 2023, we saw a recovery back to that normal rate. 24, we've seen it hitting new heights. People really prioritizing travel in the experiences of that over other spending, particularly prioritizing these experiences over things. And the other big change we've seen this year is from emerging markets, where we've seen that rebound this year and getting back up towards the previous levels on this ratio. Again, people prioritizing travel in these markets as well as in sort of the advanced economies. So that means we're expecting growth from a wide range of markets, and this is really benefiting this region, where we're seeing Middle East destinations, particularly here, attracting people from around the world, attracting people from within the region, which was sort of a growing source of delivering a lot of growth in last year. So this is here looking at the incremental change in travel to the Middle East from source markets. It was very much focused on short haul and India last year. This year, it's broadened up a lot more. It's a whole range of short haul, long haul markets really flocking to this region, driving growth. A lot of opportunities ahead. And we do expect then going into 2025, our baseline view is that there will be continued growth worldwide, continued growth in all markets, but notably Middle East leading the way. And one thing to call out sitting behind this growth is some of the opportunities for new destinations, for new development, for new experiences. Turning back to our consumer survey, we asked about people about their interest in visiting new destinations on international leisure trips. The vast majority of people saying they're more interested in visiting new destinations. The follow-up question is asking about sort of places out of their comfort zone. People really interested in sort of pushing themselves, visiting new places, so new destination development, really going to be driving some of this growth. And within this as well, there's a lot of opportunities for events, people really traveling for events, whether it's leisure events, sporting events, cultural events, concerts, It's been the year of Taylor Swift. We've got big Coldplay events coming up. That's going to be sort of bringing a lot of people to destinations, but also business events such as this. People are traveling increasingly for business, valuing that face-to-face communication, adding time to it. Blended leisure business travel is really becoming a thing, delivering a lot of opportunities for destinations. Sadly, though, do need to talk about the risks. There are a lot of risks, sadly, out there. A lot of uncertainty in the world. And this is sort of typified with some of our changes in our macroeconomic forecasts, particularly for the US, but also the world, following the US election. So this is looking at our GDP forecast and how this has changed. The blue dots showing what we were forecasting in October, the red bars showing what we're now forecasting. You can see sort of partly in response to the latest data, but partly due to what we think is coming down the road in terms of fiscal policy. Particularly, we do expect some uplift in the short term. So there is near-term positivity, but some uncertainty around that. It could be even more depending on what policy is announced. But further out, there is even more uncertainty and greater risks due to what's been talked about in terms of trades, in terms of tariffs, plus in terms of foreign policy. So we do expect some of the trade to act as a drag on the US, notably a drag on China and the world. And we can see with the Trump second term, if he could push as far as he's talking about in some of the tariffs, this could be an even bigger drag on world GDP, affecting a lot of countries, but primarily affecting that US-China trade with impacts on those economies. But there are sort of some wider impacts potentially from this, depending on what the foreign policy is and how that feeds into other geopolitical risks. So this is looking at another survey that we carry out amongst our clients and key stakeholders, where we ask about what risks do they see out in the global economy. And its geopolitical risks are something that are becoming much higher on the agenda. It's something that people are much more aware of, much more concerned about. And when asking about which specific risks, unfortunately, it is escalation in the Middle East is the one that people are very concerned about, the impacts on the global economy. So what would this mean for the global economy? It would be a shock. So we've got the fairly benign baseline forecast up here for GDP, the dark blue. We've got some of the Trump risks being the longer run in the grey. There's a lot of risks out there around inflation, interest rate paths. That is the key to continued growth. We think that's sort of less likely, but it's something that's definitely on our radar as economists. But then the other big risk out there is what happens in terms of Middle East escalation. Obviously, devastating impacts for anyone that would be directly involved, huge country impacts, but there would be, looking at this somewhat dispassionately, big impacts for the global economy. It would impact a wide range of countries. We'll knock around 0.5% off GDP, bigger impacts on individual countries. We can see how this would sort of play out across the globe, across major markets. If we start to see an escalation, we see oil prices affected through oil market disruption. We see prices spiking up around $130, $140 a barrel, as we have seen in the past. That would affect trade. It would affect economic activity. It would affect supply chains. And we would see this impact be well beyond the region. Big impacts across a huge range of major economies. So we feel it is in everyone's best interest to act and sort of calm down any tensions within the region. And turning to travel, we do need to recognise there are travel-specific risks related to this. Obviously, travel to affected countries, as we've seen in that growth chart early on. Some of the countries that would likely be involved in any escalation would see further direct impacts. But there are additional indirect impacts through prices. Right now, when we're asking travel industry, all of our key stakeholders that we work with, what they see as the biggest challenges for growth, costs come out on top. Accommodation is the biggest risk that's being seen, and that would be affected further if we see cost increases across the board. But cost of flights is also up there as a big risk factor. If we see oil prices going up, that could hit airfares. So that would mean, yes, big impacts on global economy, but big risks for this sector. So this is then looking at the risks around our outlook for the Middle East. So we are seeing growth, we're seeing upside, a lot of opportunities out there, but also risks skewed to the downside, where we could see almost a stagnation as a plausible outcome if we do see some of these risks come to fruition. So just to finish up, turning, so what do we actually seeing as the outlook? Well, I think firstly we do need to keep in mind the opportunities, particularly that new destination opportunity that I mentioned. We see destination development as being crucial to recent growth and crucial to continued growth across the region. So calling out here UAE and Saudi Arabia, these are sort of two standout destinations for growth right now, and we expect to continue to see very rapid growth fueled by development, fueled by investment in these regions. Saudi Arabia is obviously heavily influenced by the pilgrimage travel, so breaking this down by purpose, so the business, leisure, other, the other including the pilgrimage, huge part of the Saudi Arabia growth story, expected to continue as we start to see the improvements in the infrastructure, the accessibility for that. We're also seeing sort of growth across the board in business travel, but I think it's that leisure part of it that's sort of really sort of eye-catching and the one that we're really looking to track and where we're arguably being conservative in this outlook. We're seeing with development UAE, we expect leisure travel to double by the end of this decade, as we're seeing the continued improvements, continued developments within the region. Not Saudi Arabia as well, very rapid development. There was only in 2019 1 million international leisure arrivals to the country, going up to 19 million we expect in 2030. And we're often told that this is actually a conservative outlook, given some of the developments. So huge opportunities out there. So just to finish the view of the region, yes, there are a lot of risks out there, a lot of mixed bag of performance across the board because of some of these risks actually materializing in some countries, some falls evident out there, and there could be a worse situation. It's something we continue to monitor. We do hope for the best. We do really hope there is peaceful resolution to everything that's happening, particularly in Israel, and that we do see the rebound that we are expecting and continued recovery in a lot of these countries. But do want to leave you the fact that there is a huge amount of opportunity for continued growth, and we do see the resilience in this sector, and we do see that growth continuing. Thank you for your time, and have a great rest of your day.